Welcome to the APMM Virtual Conference 2021. Today we want to bring attention not to a conference sponsor, but to an institution that birthed many within the APMM. Bemidji State University has been a staple in the model-making world for a few decades. Our student model competition is named after the man that founded the model-making program at that university, and many current model professionals owe their training to that model program at Bemidji State. To help celebrate and promote Bemidji State and its new restructured model-making program, we wanted to introduce the new Product Development Program track. It is a natural extension of what many model makers already do, and the Product Development degree will see model making taught with an increased focus on applications for industrial design. Head on over to bsutad.com to learn more about the program. It will encapsulate both old and new school techniques and technologies and provide a solid foundation for a lifelong career. We'd like to welcome BSU back to the APMM after a short absence. We look forward to helping Bemidji State and the new product development program, and being an invaluable resource to both educators and students alike. In today's session, we will be going inside an incredible Makerspace, Artist Haven, community hub called the Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network, or simply the Barn. It is located on Bainbridge Island, Washington, a large island in the Puget Sound just west of Seattle. Our featured model maker, Chris Stanley, will be the man on the ground giving us the scoop. If you have any questions, Chris, as well as an APMM representative, will be available in the chat, and we encourage you to discuss the things you see on the tour with the other attendees. The chat will be open until the end of the hour, and after the tour is completed, we will have an open Q&A for the remainder of the time. And with that, giddy up!
Hello, I'm Chris Stanley, and I'll be your guide today at Barn, Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network. This was a community-built project housing a number of craft studios, some of which existed before construction, and some that were built afterwards. Our building was designed by John Paul Jones, an internationally recognized architect who lives on Bainbridge Island. This is our front door space, which currently has drop-off and pickup buckets, so people do not have to come into the building. This is our masking tree plasma cut sculpture, where you can grab a mask before you're coming in. This is our sanitizing table, where you can sign in and sanitize your hands as you come into the building for the day. This is a map of the upstairs of Barn. First place we're going to go over is say hello to our executive director, Denise, in the office. Then we're going to go to the great room, and then across the hall to the writer's workshop, and then to culinary arts.
Welcome to Barn.
So this is the great room, where we have banqueting facilities, where we do larger talks. We have a projector and a screen up there that can be used when we want to have a larger group of people. This is also attached to culinary. This is the writer's studio. Let's sanitize our hands before we go inside. We have tables. Currently this is being used for solo and small groups. There are benches. There's a view out the front window. Contemplative artwork in the room. And now let's move on to culinary just down the hall. So kitchen art studio, we have the manager's desk as we first come in, and we have aprons, storage vessels, laundry equipment for washing tablecloths and napkins, things like that. Then lots of dishwashing equipment, the 3-compartment sink. On my right here, you don't see the walk-in refrigerator. On the left is a freezer. Then tray storage. Then we have a couple of convection ovens, a range, commercial. I'd show you more of the room, but we ran out of battery in our camera at this point. This is our great room, which sort of joins the north and south studio spaces. We're going to go, and this is our reception desk. Next, we'll be going downstairs to our first floor studios. First, we'll be visiting the studios on the left, starting with the small classroom, then moving over to fiber arts, and then around the corner to book arts and printmaking. Then we'll move to the south side, on the right on your screen, and visit our smallest studio, which is media arts, then over to glass arts, and then to woodworking and small boat building, and then finally into their associated studio, which is the bench room. So this is the small classroom, which we formerly used for teaching smaller classes. We had a video screen and stuff like that. Now we are using it to teach Zoom classes. So we have a setup for looking down at the table and looking at the presenter. Green screen in back. Sam and Bruce will be interviewing me there shortly. So this is Fiber Arts, one of our larger studios. Lots of work tables, overhead mirror there for looking at things, some dress forms, and lots of different looms. They do everything from spinning to weaving in here. So these are some videos that were taken toward the beginning of last year, before things shut down. So you see lots of people working together. And I'll be quiet for a while so you can hear the clatter and din of looms working.
So Barbara, did you start from scratch? Did you start your work from scratch?
No, I took off the parts of the work that they didn't need to.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You see the trouble over here? That was when I cut the work.
Yeah, I saw you do that.
Well, I know. This is how I learned it because I had the great.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because what happens is there's a lot of pressure, but then also the water showing down.
I love to see people actively gathered and hear the noise of the machines working. I miss that. So you can see the continued shelving here, and then there's the check-in spot. So we're about done with this room. Let's go over into the dining room, which is toward the back of this space. You can see some pieces drying up there and the fan working. Lots of sinks. So this is where they'll mix dyes. We actually have a small garden of plants for dyeing on the outside of the building, and you can see the stainless steel sinks. And there's actually an induction stovetop, which again can heat things. Now we're in the printmaking and book art studios. Fascinating place. Old technology. We've been able to gather a lot of sets of lead type. Nobody wants the lead type anymore. And we've got some letterpresses. We've got 3 going right now. You can see the 2 small ones in the middle of the room as I back up a little here, and there we go. There's the 2 working right there. I've got some video of one of them at least inking the plate up.
Need some locks on
There
those.
we go. Yeah, the plate actually rotates slightly every time it goes up, and then he's going back to grab some more ink. Let's uncover another one of these. A very different kind of letterpress, but indeed a letterpress. Let's pull the cover off. Now you can see some of the rollers and stuff associated. And so it's got a larger platen to put type out on. So you can see work areas there, nice natural light coming in from the back of the building, workspace. They do some monotypes on this glass here. And here is somebody working with an intaglio plate. This is a photo lithography here, where you can burn an image into a plastic plate. She set it up here, laid the felts down, and rolling to get an impression that the felts sort of push the paper down into the ink, so you get a real good copy. This is used in engraving and etching as well. So let's look at the back wall, where we've got some examples that have been printed in here. And then over to our left here is amazing example. This is a full-size plate here that, in order to get enough brayer strength, there was a gathering of printmakers, and they used a steamroller to apply the pressure to that plate. Some more letter stuff. Here's some more brayers, sink in the back, and then back looking at the area where we first came through. Now let's go from one of the larger space to one of the smaller space. Media Art Studio. It's a sound lab, essentially. It is our smallest studio, and it is the only studio that doesn't have a window going into it. And so it has a camera that when people are occupied in the room, you can see them that way. That was quick. Let's go to Glass Arts. Oh, there's a beautiful fused glass sign declaring that this is the Glass Arts Studio. Here's some of our shelves of glass supplies. There are also smaller elements in those drawers. And then over here, we have a table with lighting, lots of ventilation, and they do beadwork and other things on this table. Let's look at the beadwork class. You can see some of the torches working here. This is where you've got a rod with a little ceramic material on it so that you can get the bead off in the end. And then you just keep heating that with a torch and then applying little dots of glass and stuff from a rod. This is using borosilicate glass, which has you can see carbon, a graphite plate there to shape the bead a little. And here's the instructor advising the student as to what the torch flame should look like. Ah, that's better. And then class again. This is pre-COVID. People were not so restricted in their distance apart from each other. This sort of situation will return in the future. So on to the kiln room. These are glass fusing kilns back in here, and some shapes for slumping glass over. Yeah, 4 kilns in here. Here's a class utilizing those fusing kilns. They're working on a white glass with some darker came and other elements. They're arranging them on there, and then they'll be moved into the kiln. There's some of the drawers of shapes going there. We are placing them down into the kiln. That's with them still being fairly three-dimensional. And this is opening the kiln after the fusing. And now they're all flat. This is the wet room. So this room has various sanders, bandsaws, things all designed for cutting and shaping glass. There's a floor drain to deal with the water output. And here we go into the largest shop in the building, which is the wood shop, wood and small boat building. Some drill presses here, and then we have this wall of drawers of safety equipment, safety glasses, goggles, things like that. Then hand saws, sandpaper, glues, things like that. Now we go over to the scroll saws and lots of clamps. You can never have too many clamps. There's a chop saw in the distance there, some drill presses, and one mother of a bandsaw. Some jointers, some really big drum sanders. And then over here on the left is our CNC router. Now we're gonna look to the right. There's two drum sanders there, and then wood storage in the background there. We get regular shipments from local suppliers. And then on for a moment, you might see a table saw in the distance. Now we're gonna move over to our turning area where we have a lot of lathes set up. A lot of people make bowls and things like that in this part of the shop. So our gouges and other turning tools. Now this is the bench room. This is a separate room next to the wood shop, which has got all these really nice custom benches in here. Some more fine hand tools, beautiful saws and things, bench dogs, bit of a library in the back there, door back into the commons. Looks like somebody's got a demonstration table set up with the different clamps you can use. Probably for one of the Zoom classes going on right now. Those are the benches and storage in the background. Now we're going to go back upstairs and explore the studios on the south side of the building. First we'll go into electronic and technical arts. Then we're going to go around the corner to jewelry and fine metals. After we've explored a bit in there, we're going to go look at sheet metal and welding, and finally ending up in metal machining, my main headquarters. So this is the electronic and technical arts studio. This is where we got our FDM printers, a few computers, a lot of Raspberry Pis, which are small computers, and right now we have a couple of larger computer stations which are used primarily by the media arts group for putting together videos and things. Let's see, we have, this is another one of their studios, and there's a scanner nearby. Then we get into sort of the classroom setup of the room. We have several tables set up, and then over here is cabinets with electronic parts, adapter cables and things like that for the with all the different things you sort of deal with computers. This classroom has a screen up in front, a projector in the back. I've used this to teach Fusion 360 classes. Now in the back room here, we have our two lasers. The red one is a fairly new machine. We just recently set it up. Gives us more capacity. And then we have the smaller to the right blue unit, which is our original laser, and next to it is its cooling unit, cool the laser bulb. Then on the other side we have a couple of printers. We have a Utilimaker and a couple more of the Persis. I may go in and fix that. And then we have a fume hood over there, so a safe place for doing soldering and things like that. And I think we've got another printer that we're putting together over there. And so that's pretty. Now we're in Jewelry and Fine Metals studio. This is the first studio I worked in as a teacher. We're going to take a little peek into the hammer room. Unfortunately, the cabinet that the hammers are in is locked at the moment. And couldn't find my key at the time, so I wasn't able to unlock it. And in the back, there's a bead blaster. We got our eye wash station first aid kit. There's our sink. And then we got a fume hood over in the corner here. With some oxyacetylene equipment. To its right, we have our current lapidary setup. It enables us to do cabochons and things like that. Let's take a look at when people were working in here previously. Diamond saw for cutting the stones roughly to shape, and then we have a lot of grinders that will allow you to grind it to final shape. And then we have this, all these, let's see, we have 12 workbench sites. Each one has air collection, oxy and propane. Gas to the tables for using torches, flexible shaft, lighting, fully set up. I think currently under COVID protocols we're using I think 4 or 6 of those sites. There's one of our enameling kilns with enameling samples next to it. There's a hydraulic press for pressing some work. Buffing equipment, pickle stations for cleaning after soldering, then a vacuum table for evacuating investment prior to burnout. There's our burnout kiln, and then just beyond that is our centrifuge for doing casting. Now I'll show you a short video of some of the casting going on. This is bronze. Heating the metal up, you can see it's cold there, but eventually turns into a nice fluid. It's being mixed and investigated with a graphite rod. Go for a spin, quenching, and then there's the final product. Looks like maybe 2 products, ring and a little charm. Then we go into welding and sheet metal. I've been one of the co-leads in sheet metal, taught a number of classes. This is the Jack Archer shop. Jack was a really nice guy who donated most of the equipment that makes up the sheet metal shop, and he was a very strong advocate for sheet metal. Unfortunately, he passed away. So we have a roller there for making round shapes. Then we have shear. We have a shrinker and stretcher for making things dome and become more three-dimensional. Then we have our pan brake for bending metal. There's an English wheel back in the corner there. And then behind that whiteboard, unfortunately, is a rather large spot welder. We have metal bandsaw, drill press, assorted hand tools. We're now looking more into the welding section of the room. Lots of various hand tools, and then drawers with various supplies of safety equipment and grinders and things like that. And then you can see one of the welding stations there. We have 4 welding stations. And then we have the table over here, which we use for instructing. So we have oxyacetylene welding, TIG welding, MIG welding, and stick welding, as well as a plasma cutting. Our plasma cutting can be done by hand, and we've built our own CNC, which is under that blanket back there. CNC equipment, and then we have some saws for cutting stock, a horizontal bandsaw, and a cutoff saw. Let me peel back the blanket a little bit so you can at least see the cutting head on this. We normally keep plastic on top of the tank, but that's a tank of water there for firing into. Now you'll see a class in session, one of our instructors.
When you do it, and that's not too uncommon to have to do something like
Talk
that.
on the whiteboard.
And then for you to make a box, once you get a
Welding example for the students. See how she goes about it, and then they get to practice on their own for a while. Build their skills. We have a lot of ventilation in that shop. Put some pretty heavy duty fans on. And then we also have the big doors there so we can bring big projects in and out. And now we're over by the machine room. These are some models that were built by one of our major volunteers, Peter Mosley, and his father, I think, built most of those. And we'll go into the shop and we'll see David Hayes, the current lead in the machine shop. He'll say hello.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, this is the machine shop.
On the right there was some of our metal storage, and so this is one of our larger milling machines. We have a nice hard-hinge tool room lathe here. Some tool storage on the left. I'm looking up at the new window openers that Peter has built. Those very tall windows up there, you needed a ladder to open and close them, and so now we have a way to do that from ground level. Drill press back here, a bridge port that was gifted to us that we're rebuilding, and then to my right here is our beloved CNC, a servo CNC. This is it working. I'll be quiet. You can hear it operating. My discussion with a student.
Very good idea. Gets rid of the scalloping. I went to Boeing with
And they were cutting wings in stainless for their high-speed wind tunnel. And they were using a ball-end mill. So I saw how they were doing it. And then, of course, they're doing lots of very small passes. And after machining out the object, we put it through its paces and took it for a spin. A fidget spinner. So the class we go through is a two-part class. First part we go through Fusion 360, explain enough so that they can design their fidget spinner, and then use that program to write the G code, and then we cut the part out in the second class. That's that window opener again. To the right was a hydraulic press. I got an arbor press to the left here. Taps and dies. Closing lathe on the right here. And then our little CNC lathe. It's got takes up to a 1-inch collet. I hope you've enjoyed our little tour of Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network, and I hope at some point in the future you're able to come over to Bainbridge Island in Washington State and visit our facility and see it for yourself in person. I found it to be in a most amazing place.
And now on to the Q&A. If you haven't already, head over to the chat, either to your right if you're viewing on a desktop, or below if you're on a smartphone, and join the discussion with the presenter and your fellow model makers. When you are ready, or after the session ends, you can head to the APMM Zoom meetup for further discussion or general information from an APMM representative. This Zoom meetup will be open all day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For future sessions, head back to the conference schedule page for dates, times, and the appropriate link for each session. And as you discuss, we want to thank the companies and individuals that have supported the APMM and our conference efforts with their donations after we had to postpone our in-person conference last year. Your support means a lot to this organization, and it helped make this conference a reality. Find the names of our amazingly generous conference donors on the screen now. Thanks for coming to this session. We hope you enjoyed it.